There's no such thing as a gold digger. Women are naturally expensive. So pick one in your price range and shut up. Hair, nails, skincare, clothes, makeup, none of that is free. Even that girl that you think's low maintenance, the one that's natural, you must have never had a girlfriend before, because that natural girl, she's rocking a $200 effortless look, okay? That's just the base model. You want the leather seats and the sunroof, that's going to cost you, okay? So pick one in your price range and shut up. You don't walk into a luxury car dealership and yell at the salesman because the car is more than you can afford. You get a Corolla and you mind your business, right? If she's out of your budget, that's not her being a gold digger. That's you shopping in the wrong aisle. You can't complain that champagne costs too much when you only brought beer money, okay? Stop complaining and just date within your means. That's what I do, okay? There's someone for everyone. Stop crying about women wanting too much and go find someone whose idea of a fancy night out is Buffalo Wild Wings. They're out there. I grew up with them. These are my people. But I'm from Jersey. I'm not from Monte Carlo, and that's okay.
Relationships are such a tricky thing for so many people, and that's really your forte, right? That's what you're really special.
It is. I mean, even though, again, like I said, yeah, it's interesting because the character, so to speak, that I play, that is certainly a part of me, is a lot more comical than I am in real life. And I mean, I understand, comedy is really just a funny way of saying serious things, but I think people are surprised, for instance, when they do get the book that I put out, because all of a sudden it's a completely different tone. It's the same subject matter, but it's suddenly far more serious and I would say more in depth. Whereas in the car, in the videos, I'm just being playful. I'm saying things that I believe, things that me and my friends would talk about at the diner, just hanging out. And now I'm just saying it in front of, at times millions of people. But it's interesting because I sometimes I wonder if people will be disappointed when they discover that is not the entirety of what I am. A lot of times I'll do a live. I've been going live recently just as an opportunity to discuss the book because it's the only place where I can discuss it to the followers. Because in the videos I'm always playing that guy, and the comments will be like, "Oh, this is boring. Tell us a joke." And
they fell in love with the character.
Yeah, they just fell in love with that character, which admittedly is fun, and I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy writing comedy as well, but it's not how I would identify. It's not how I would see myself if I had to describe myself.
Like all of us, you're multifaceted.
Yeah. I mean,
but like Chris Rock or Rodney Dangerfield or any great comedian, they could be telling you what they had for breakfast, and it's funny.
Yeah,
it's just funny to listen to the way they deliver it. And the same thing with you. It's like your delivery is so fun to listen to that like everything that comes out of your mouth is hilarious to me.
I mean, I try. I'm not going to say that's the thing. It comes across as effortless, but the reality is that I am trying. And I spoke to someone who's trying to get me into the comedy space and even potentially stand up, which it seems so outlandish to me because I don't identify as that, nor do I think I can potentially do that. But who knows? Maybe we'll try someday. But what he recognized as someone who's been doing this for a long, long time, much more than me, he said, really what I know is that you're clearly a strong writer, because obviously, you're not entirely just coming up with this off the top of your head. And I think that the reality is that all those people you mentioned, and any comedian, or anyone who's entertaining in any kind of way, is ultimately a writer, in the or to even use a more general term, I think they're just a storyteller. They're just a good storyteller who just so happens in that particular moment to make you laugh. But I think that's really the art form is the storytelling, I would say.
Yeah, I'd buy that. So what do you actually do for a living?
Soft White Underbelly is about giving people a space to tell their stories, even when these stories challenge what we think we know. Ground News shows us different perspectives in the media, which is why Ground News is a perfect sponsor for my channel. In a world where algorithms censor much of the information we receive, some of the most important stories get missed from our news feeds. Ground News highlights local news from around the world, giving you an on-the-ground perspective that national coverage might miss. The app and website empowers you to form your own opinions by presenting you with every article published on any news story worldwide. My favorite part of the app is the data it gives you on each news source as you read it, such as where it leans on the political spectrum, a factuality rating indicating how subjective their printed reporting tends to be, and who funds it. I particularly like their blind spot feed, dedicated to showing you news stories that are underrepresented in the mainstream media. You can check this all out by scanning the QR code on screen or clicking the link below. It's easy to forget how much bias can shape the reality we live in. And in a world where our attention is constantly being fought over, my Vantage Plan easily helps me keep up with more important stories slipping through the cracks. So I encourage you to check them out at ground.news/SWU. Subscribe through my link or download the mobile app and enter promo code SWU to save 40% off their Vantage Plan. And by subscribing or even gifting it to someone you know, you're helping hold the media accountable and helping my channel directly. Thank you for watching.
So what do you actually do for a living?
So for the last 13 or 14 years, I've been a lawyer, which typically surprises people, and I'm always happy that it surprises them because I don't identify as a lawyer. I don't feel that it's that it encompasses me or that I come across as one, which I'm happy not to. I guess you can see my experience with lawyers has not been that positive. Although, interestingly enough, my father is a lawyer, but he became a lawyer later in life. So he also wouldn't identify as a lawyer. He became a lawyer in his 30s. And it's not a profession that I particularly enjoy. It's just something that I stumbled upon, something that I didn't know what to do. I always wanted to write. That didn't seem like something doable because of my background. I'm from an immigrant family. You know, saying I'm gonna go into the arts is not exactly. These are seen as luxuries for other people, not for us. But I always loved
first generation American.
Yeah. These the luxury of finding yourself and expressing yourself. These are outlandish concepts to people that are literally just trying to survive and make a way, and do responsible things and position themselves in a way to climb the social ladder and put their family in a better position for the future. So, I came from that kind of family, and being a literature student in college and always loving writing and reading, I just thought this was always going to be a hobby. I'll enjoy it on my free time. Let me go do something that is solid and grounded and has a good future. And so I just followed the path that was laid before me, and I said, okay, I guess I'll go to law school. And I completely committed to it. I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years. I never even looked around for something else to do. It wasn't only until recently, really recently, because again, my TikTok is around March. So we're talking, 6-7 months at most. I was dating a girl who has worked for years in the social media space. And she's like an online business coach. And she's doing very well for herself as well in that space. And she knew I was unhappy with my profession. She knew that I was always hoping for a way out, but kind of resistant to really trying something differently. And she was the one who said to me, why don't you try posting some videos on TikTok? And I thought to myself, and I said to her too, I'm 37 years old. I'm going to go on TikTok. And what am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? I'm going to do a dance or something. That TikTok, the people that go famous on TikTok, as far as I knew, because I was always, as she would say, chronically offline. Like I was completely ignorant to social media. I always assumed it was dancing, it was kids, it was nonsense. And she said, no, just go on there and just be yourself. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. Pretend you're FaceTiming your friends or something. And I said, all right, whatever, I'll try it. And I went into my car because I wanted to be private because I felt ridiculous. I didn't want her to see me recording it. And it just kind of immediately took off. Within a matter of maybe a couple of weeks, it went viral. And I just kept on going with it. And in this kind of roundabout, unexpected way, it's opened up a path for me to do what I always really wanted to do, which was not only tell stories, but also write something and publish something and put it out there. And so, as soon as I went viral and had all these followers, something clicked and said, oh my God, I can now actually perhaps put out some writing, and maybe these people that are enjoying my videos will be interested enough to check it out. And so I did just that. I completely independently. I have no promoters, I have no marketers, I have no publisher. I just rented some studio space. I recorded an audiobook. It's something that I had written over the course of years that I thought no one would ever see. I never wanted to be a self-proclaimed writer. I found that always to be detestable. So I thought I was just going to keep it to myself and no one was ever going to see it. I didn't want to self-publish and have my aunt buy it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't until this virality, unexpected, unwanted, opened up a path that made me realize, oh my goodness, now I have this
great marketing
marketplace.
Yeah.
I have these people that want to know more about me. And so I put this thing out there, and it's been out for like 3 weeks, and it's doing very well, I'd say, more than I could have ever expected. So it's just an exciting time, and all of it started with an ex-girlfriend. Thank you, wherever you are out there. She's a wonderful person, who had a belief and a confidence that I could do something different, something that I didn't have myself. I was playing small. Like I said, even with my writing, I was committed to never showing anybody anything. I wasn't on social media, not even privately. So it's really an internet miracle in a way. I mean, it's almost like you hit the internet lottery, and all of a sudden you go from just being a guy who just hangs out with his friends at the diner and goes to work at the law office, and now all of a sudden you have all these people that are watching you and that they're interested in knowing what you have to say. And
I mean, your delivery and your content is right on the money.
You know what's funny about that? So that's the person I am in the car is not a caricature. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm playing a character. It's certainly one of my identities. So, code switching. Like when I'm hanging, obviously when I'm in court, and hopefully I'll never be in court ever again. I'm speaking a certain dialect of the American language, right? And then when I'm hanging out with my friends from Jersey, it's not like I'm pretending to be that guy. You just switch into that, and you really are that as authentically as you are the other person that you are. And when we would hang out, it occurred to us how funny this dialect is. Like, it reminds me kind of like Robert De Niro in Goodfellas. I mean, the line in and of itself is not funny. There's nothing funny about, yeah, well, you go to Tampa with Jimmy. We'll have a good time. We'll have a good time. Like, we'll have a good time is not funny. Or the girls are coming over, they're commiserating. I can't do it, Henry. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it written on paper is not funny. But in the mouth of an Italian American from the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area, there's something about it that is inherently funny. I think it's why those movies are funny, those shows are funny, whether it be The Sopranos or whatever else. It's a funny way to speak, and it's not performative. That's just the way it is. It just comes out that way, and we would joke about that and recognize that when we would hang out with each other, and we were on a road trip in like Salt Lake City or something, and we would realize the way people would react to us just being ourselves. But I guess we never would have thought that I would take that show onto my phone at 37 years old. But yeah, there's something inherently comical about that person.
It just works.
It just works. It just works. I mean, I know people that are far funnier than me, you know, old timers that they're just hanging out in the corner, just, you know, Italian American guys, or even, and it extends beyond that, because at some point that dialect became the dialect of the area. So you can even be a Jewish New Yorker and you kind of have the same mannerisms, or an Irish New Yorker. There's just something about the personality and the vernacular and the way we move through the world that is inherently, I think, entertaining, whether it be funny or just flat out entertaining. So I think that goes to my advantage. I'm not surprised to discover that a lot of viral people are from the area. I'm going to say something potentially controversial, but we always say this amongst my friends. I have one friend that's like, I'm only going to date girls from Staten Island and Long Island. That's it. Which is even more, I think, focused. But I would extend that to say that even in my dating life, I've always noticed that there's a little bit of a personality deficit in other parts of the country. There just is. You're a wonderful person, you're a nice girl, I'm sure, but there is something about a girl from New York, New Jersey, with the hoop earrings, and she's chewing gum, and the mouth is open while she's talking, and just the slang, the style, you know, the Marissa Tomei.
The attitude.
Yeah, the attitude. There's something about it that is attractive. And I think that's why it works even in the social media space, or even just in the entertainment space. There's something about it that just works, that is attractive, that's alluring, that brings people in, and it gets you hooked. So I'm sure people could do, and in fact they do. I've noticed that there are people that literally do my videos word for word at times, in other languages too. I think it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it's not because I'm particularly talented at the delivery. I'm literally just talking the way I would talk to my friends at the diner. It's just there's something about it that just works.
Yeah, you could talk about what you had at the diner, and they would be entertaining.
Yeah. There's something about it. There's something about it that is entertaining for sure.
The majority of your they're like 2 minute, 3 minute clips.
No, at most a minute, maybe a minute and a half. They're short.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they that short?
You go through his phone to see if he's cheating, but instead see a search history is best tips for dating a girl with multiple personalities. All right, ladies, that's not a cheater. That's a man fighting for his life. Okay, he wasn't planning a side chick. He was Googling survival tactics. All right, he wasn't deleting texts. He was bookmarking Reddit threads called "How to Date When She's Happy, Mad, Sad, and Crying at the Same Time." And listen, I've been there. The last thing on our minds in that kind of relationship is other women. Okay, we don't have the mental bandwidth, the spiritual fortitude to even consider cheating, because we are exhausted from having to date the 16 different versions of you. Okay, so you were expecting to find the M's. Instead, you found a man so overwhelmed he turned to ChatGPT for therapy. All right, that's not betrayal, that's desperation. Okay, because let's be honest, guys cheat when they're stupid, but guys Google stuff like that when they're committed. Like, he wasn't leaving you, he was starving for help. Okay, so no, he's not shady. He's just underprepared. And if anything, you should feel flattered, because instead of running, he's out here researching how to survive being with you.
The majority of them are about dating and relationships.
Yeah.
Which are just, it's a hilarious topic anyway,
yeah.
Especially with this attitude. Like, to love somebody you have to be crazy.
100%. Yeah.
And it's like, you almost take this, your perspective on relationships is almost more of a female perspective than a typical male one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would say that, in fact, I mentioned this in the book. I never thought I'd quote myself. I'm not going to quote myself, but I'm paraphrasing. But in the book, I mentioned that to love is truly the most rebellious thing we can do in many ways. Literally, I mean, you're choosing to love dust. You're choosing to love something that is fallible, that is terminating, that is changing. And it's incredibly risky too, obviously. I mean, I was speaking to someone just the other day, and they said, how do you know if somebody's love bombing you, or if they're genuine in their interest? And the answer is you don't know until you know. My father married my mother after 8 months that they met. So by all metrics, that was a love bombing. It just happened to work out, and so we don't define it as love bombing right now. So that was genuine. But the fact is that we play such a dangerous game because you inherent to the act, you have to trust somebody that you don't even know. You have to trust that what they're saying is honest. You have to trust that they have only good intentions towards you. And so often, again, it's the determining factor in whether something was genuine or not is how it ends, which at times I think is unfair because, you could be genuinely interested in someone in the moment and then just change your mind. That doesn't mean that at the time you were lying to them. So it's certainly tricky. It's certainly a difficult thing to do. It may be the most difficult thing we ever do. And I don't think we were designed to love and lose as often as we now do. People generally speaking used to have one relationship. It would last a lifetime. It wasn't even seen the way we see it now. Marriage was not so tied to romantic love. That's a fairly modern phenomenon. Mm-hmm. But the way we do it is so incredibly hurtful because you're experiencing so many little deaths in one lifetime that I don't think we were designed to experience. I think it was Emerson who said that of all the ways of losing someone, death is the kindest. Which is to say that if we were honest, we would rather the person cease to exist than us lose them. Because to know that they're still out there and you shared a piece of life with them, it really is like being...
And they're choosing to do something with someone else.
100%. They're choosing someone else. That rejection hurts. It is a form of mutilation, I think. It's like you've amputated a part of yourself and now it's wandering out in the world and soon enough they become strangers, which is the craziest thing. Love is outrageous. To do this as frequently as we do is probably a terrible idea. But there's something about us. Again, like I said before, there's a rebellious nature to loving. It's foolish, but we can't help ourselves.
We're moths to a flame.
Yeah, we can't help ourselves. We want more. We want to experience it again if we've lost it. We eventually do heal from whatever heartache, and then we find ourselves ready again to go through it. It's remarkable.
And with social media and dating apps and all the technology, it's just even crazier than it's ever been.
Now, it's nearly impossible, I would say. I mean, it's become harder than ever. I think that we are so overwhelmed and inundated with the illusion of choice. We've all heard people talk about this, especially now with social media and with dating apps in particular. This idea that there's just someone better is just around the corner. It makes the whole enterprise more difficult than ever because now you're constantly looking over your shoulder. And you're doing the same thing, really. So while you're simultaneously suspicious that the other person might be wandering, even just mentally, if you're honest with yourself, so are you. You too are so keenly aware that there are in fact others. I mean, when I think about my grandfather who married, one of the 13 girls in his village, I mean, how easy was that? And it lasted a lifetime. And sometimes you wonder, sometimes you do have to wonder, are we doing it wrong? Have we made, in the effort to find the one, which again is a concept that my grandfather probably didn't even have, we've become so focused on romantic love and on finding our person and our soulmate and being together forever that we've made that result so much harder. which I find to be so paradoxical and so interesting. And I say this all the time. I don't like to date. I don't enjoy it. I kind of just wish I could skip and fast forward to the part where we're together and everything is fine.
No, you got to play the game.
But you got to play the game.
And the game is expensive.
And it's very expensive. It's very expensive. I think I had a video, just to switch to some of the comedy, where it says something like, listen, women aren't expensive. You just have to find one in your price range. Okay, like if all you can afford is a Toyota Corolla, that's it. Well, you can't. I think that part of the trap of social media and dating apps is that suddenly people that in reality would have otherwise been inaccessible 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever, you now feel like, you know what, maybe I could get that. And so you send some random model a DM. Whereas 30 years ago,
so many people are fishing out of their league.
Yeah, you would have never even met this person 30 years ago because you would have never been to that.
Because you would never have talked to you.
Yeah, you would never talk to them. You would have never been to that club in Monaco, and you would have never met them. You would have been in Jersey City at a diner. So you would have to marry Stella, who works at the diner, and that's it. So I think that now there's this illusion of accessibility. I see this girl on social media. I'm just one message away. She might respond to me, and I think it's completely just inflated our sense of what we can have. And it's a mess out there. It's a mess. So listen, if my advice to you is if you can afford a Toyota, just get the Toyota. You're better off. Trust me.
and there's all this advice where they're telling men to act disinterested and not chase and all that kind of stuff. What I love about your perspective, it's just so upfront and honest and just like, look, I like you.
Yeah.
One of my favorite clips I just posted recently was about texting somebody quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I got no time. Like, listen, if I want to talk to you, I'm going to talk to you. Like, I'm not gonna. This whole thing of I'm going to wait 3 days. I'm going to see if they text me first. I'm going to measure out my sentences, make sure it's 1 line instead of 3, because then 3 looks like it's too long. You don't want to send a paragraph. I have no time for this. Like, if I like somebody, they're going to know about it. They're going to know it clearly, and just let the chips fall where they may. Like even before social media, or before texting being so prevalent, I'm not that old, but I'm sufficiently old enough to still have at least been in high school. So I did a little bit of dating before the madness. And, there's just something about being direct. I've never been someone who friend zones himself. Like, I'm gonna play along. I'm gonna be friendly. I'm gonna see how it works out. I'm gonna just stick around and hope that someday I have an opportunity. I'd rather take the rejection. I'm not gonna pretend to be your friend for 3 years when I'm secretly harboring, interest. So I think that people in large part also play these little games as a defense mechanism. I think people don't want to be rejected. I think people don't want to put themselves out there. And I strongly recommend, I'm not a dating coach, God forbid. I know people think I am now because of videos, but I'm just trying to make you guys laugh, and I'm telling stories. That's why I'm not selling any courses. I'm not positioning myself as a therapist. But just be honest. I mean, you're wasting your time and their time. What's the point? Just get on with it. If she rejects you, she rejects you. If she thinks you're too much because you're overzealous, so what? You put your truth out there. If he or she likes it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. The reality is that nothing you do or say actually impacts the result. And what I mean by that is, I had an aunt in Italy who always used to say to me, and I didn't take her advice when I was younger, in my early 20s, maybe even my teens. She said to me, and I couldn't have possibly understood this at the time, there's a difference between being impressive and being loved. And I think that we try so hard to put our best foot forward. We act like somebody else for the first 3 months of the relationship, and that's why it falls apart afterwards, because you weren't even who you really are. It's not even putting your best foot forward. You're putting on an act at times because you just want so badly for somebody to love you. And the reality is that someday somebody's going to love you for no reason. someone's going to love you for no reason, and that will be love. Because if somebody loves this character that you're putting forth, you're trying to be interesting, you're trying to be impressive, you're trying to be cool, you're trying to be whatever it is that you think they'll like, I mean, that's not even really you. So they're not even, to the extent that they are loving something, it's not even you. So yeah, listen, just be yourselves. There's somebody out there who that will be enough for.
We've all seen it where, on both ends, where we're in love with somebody, and no matter what they do, whatever rejection, however badly they treat us, we're still going to love them no matter what. And it works 100%. The other way as well, where some woman will be attracted to you or me or somebody, some guy, and we'll ignore them. We'll not return their texts. We'll treat them like crap, and they will be in our They'll be following us forever.
That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other psychology, which again I'm not equipped to speak on. I'm not a professional, but I do know that in my own life I've experienced how frequently I turn down a girl who's really, really into me, and I dive head first into a girl who's giving me no time of day. And that's a whole other psychology. Who knows what attachment issues I've got that caused that. I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to be more, I'm trying to give people a chance too. I have a habit, I've always been this way because I think I'm just so intensely romantic by nature. I've always only dated women when I have that first immediate visceral impact upon seeing them. And, sometimes it may be worth it to give somebody a chance because they have some other qualities.
Love does grow sometimes.
Yeah, perhaps it does. It's never grown for me, but maybe someday it will. I've always exclusively had relationships with women that I was smitten with the moment I met them. Just immediately on impact. I wouldn't say it's love at first sight. I don't know if I believe in that, but I believe in I can love this person at first sight. Like a recognition of, oh my God, I'm gonna love this person. And I'm not gonna say that it's been disastrous for me. Again, I've had wonderful girlfriends. I'm one of the few men who will say that I've never had a crazy ex.
But there's a magic in that too. Having a bipolar girlfriend. You even made a video about it.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites.
Man is nothing without his bipolar girlfriend. That's the flavor right there. That's what makes life beautiful. Right? She's laughing, crying, and ordering sushi all within 5 minutes. She's FaceTiming you from the other room to accuse you of cheating. 1 minute it's sunny and warm, and she's hugging me like I'm the last Kit Kat on Earth. And next minute it's a Category 5 hurricane because I said sure instead of yes, my princess, of course, I'm so sorry. She doesn't ask any questions. She sets traps. She'll be like, do you want to hang out with your friends? What do you say to that? Yes? No? Morse code? I blink twice and hope she reads the message? I don't know. When she's mad and she asks, do you know what you did? No, of course I don't. No one knows. But I do know it was probably between 2007 and now, and I'm sorry in advance. Look, I wasn't built for quiet love. I was built for whispered fights in parking garages, for storming out and storming back in because she forgot her keys. You haven't lived until your girlfriend says she's fine, and then you spend the next 3 hours questioning every decision you've ever made while she eats fries in total silence. That's love. That's life. I don't recall it because I make so many of them, but I imagine that what I must have said is that there's something really exciting. There's something attractive about going through highs and lows, craziness, like a tempestuous relationship. I think inherently it's romantic. I mean, we love this in the movies. We love when they leave each other and they yell and then they scream and then they move on and then they come back and they return to each other. For some reason, in real life, when somebody takes somebody back, it's always so controversial. Like in real life, like your parents or your friends will say, listen, if it didn't work the first time, then it's never going to work. All these cliches. But for some reason, when it comes to a movie, when it comes to a love song, oh, we love that. We root for the toxic, dramatic return.
Reconciliation.
We love reconciliation in art, in a movie, in a song, and in real life, we will judge each other so badly if somebody takes back an ex. And it's such an interesting psychology. What is it about it that we love in the privacy of our consumption of a song or a movie? But if someone does it in real life, it's completely taboo. And I think that's what I was speaking to in that video, which is at the end of the day, there's a recognition that there's something really hot about reconnecting with someone or dealing with someone that is incredibly fickle or difficult or changing and going through drama. There's something exciting about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think a healthy relationship can be a little bit boring.
I saw a woman on social media saying it's better for the man to love the woman more than the woman loves the man, because the man's going to have to put up with so much crazy bullshit that it's best if he likes her more than she likes him.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have to tolerate that.
100%. I'm a huge believer in that. I've said that all my life, that there's no such thing as 50-50 in anything in life. There's no such thing as equality either. Like nothing is exactly the same. And so I think the concept of we have to love each other the same way, and I think it's complete nonsense. But I highly recommend that the one who loves more be the man in a monogamous relationship between a man and a woman. I think it's essential that the man be more in love, in large part because of all the things that he has to put up with. Also because I think that men, again, generally speaking, men are more romantic. Men are the doers of the romance, generally speaking. They have been since the beginning of time. And women are the recipients of the romance. And so I think that if a man is not romantically in love with you and crazy about you, the chances of that succeeding are very, very low.
He's going to cheat.
He's going to cheat. I mean, even if he loves you, he's probably going to cheat. So imagine if he doesn't love you. So the man has to be crazy about you for there to be any chance of long-term success. I know I'm saying I'm making it sound like it's black and white and there's no exceptions. There's an exception to everything, but that just proves the rule. But 100%, if the man is not crazy about the girl, it's in my mind, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. And also because I think that even from a biological level, and I had an aunt tell me this, so I can always defend myself by saying a woman told me this. So my aunt in Italy, always in Italy, because all my aunts are in Italy, because my mother is one of 9 from Italy, so all her family is there. So I've spent a lot of time in Italy. I lived in Italy about 8 years, on and off at different times. But I have a bunch of aunts in Italy, and one of them, who also studied psychology, so she was coming from a psychological standpoint, she said to me, also, the man has to love the woman more because even just biologically speaking, a man can have an infinite amount of children in a year. A woman can only have one child in a calendar year, or one pregnancy to term. So inherent to the male biology is the capacity to have many, many partners. And so for a man to want to be monogamous, as opposed to for a woman, I think takes a greater effort. There's a greater opposition to biology. There's a greater opposition to psychology at play. So a man has to be really, really in love with a girl, with a woman, to want to be able to defy that and overcome the odds of not only her craziness, not all women are crazy, but her beautiful craziness and his own propensity towards polygamy, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're on the money there.
Yeah.
Tell me about your childhood. You had mom and dad?
Yeah, my childhood is is uncommon within the Italian American community, because most Italian Americans are born and raised here to children of immigrants or to second or third generation Italians. And they're predominantly born and raised in Italian American neighborhoods, to the extent that those still exist. I mean, they've moved on from the cities, and now the neighborhoods are more in the towns and things like that. But my life went a little bit differently, because my father's born and raised in Jersey City, the son of Italian immigrants. And he's born in what was at the time in Jersey City an Italian American neighborhood. No longer, like all the neighborhoods, whether it be Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge, I mean, people have dispersed over the years. He meets my mother, who's from Italy, and they meet when she's here on vacation, and they get married. Again, like I said earlier, within 8 months, they're married. He moves to Italy with her. He's 18 years old. He's just out of high school. So this is madness, which is probably why it worked, to come together. He obviously lost his mind, and he did something outlandish at the time. Nobody moves to Italy, particularly in 1979, 1980. I mean, maybe now, if you're a remote worker, even now, you don't go to Italy looking for opportunity. So it's a wonderful country, but usually the traffic is in the other direction. So here's this 18-year-old kid who foregoes college and says, I'm going to marry this girl and go to Italy. And they do. After they're there for a few years, they come back to the US, where my brother and I are born. So I'm born in Jersey City, and 6 months later, we go back to Italy. So I have this very uncommon story in that I'm born here, but then I'm an infant in Italy. So my first language is Italian. My first everything, my first steps were in Italy. We stay there until I'm about 6 or 7 years old. And then when we come back, I don't speak a lick of English. So I do ESL. I'm doing English as a second language. I'm 7 years old. Apparently it took me like 3-4 months. When you're a kid, it's no big deal. And so I was integrated into the regular classroom within 3 months. But my childhood was this weird duality, this kind of split identity where, I'm 100% Italian, and then I become 100% American, whatever that means. And to this day, I'm bilingual in an undetectable way. I mean, when I'm in Italy, no one knows that I'm American. And when I'm here, I obviously don't have an Italian accent. I might have an Italian-American accent, but not an Italian accent. And even even the place I grew up in then adds another layer of oddity in that, first of all, Jersey City is the most ethnically diverse city in America. New York is number 2, oddly enough. So I was in a majority city growing up. But particularly my neighborhood, which used to be Italian-American, the same neighborhood my father grew up in the 60s and 70s, I grew up there post-white flight. I grew up there in the 90s, and I was literally the only so-called white child in my class. So I didn't rediscover white people until high school. As far as I knew, when I was like an 8-9-year-old kid, I thought, oh, maybe there's no white people in America. Like everybody was either African American or Hispanic, and that's so again to add to the multiple personality disorder that I have, or the various identities, so to speak. I have a whole other dialect that is not in my videos and that is not here today. And that's when I'm hanging out with my brothers and sisters from the hood that I grew up with. Then something else comes out that I can't perform because I can't flip the switch. It just happens when I'm in there. But that was a whole other time. I was like in a rap group when I was 9 years old. It was a 3rd grade. It was called the Players Club. Shout out to Greg, Kason, and Brandon. I hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. But yeah, so this was a whole other. So needless to say, I was confused growing up as to where do I fit in? What am I? Who am I? To this day, I don't even know. Does anyone really ever know who they are? But yeah, that's my childhood. My childhood was divided between Italy, inner city America, and a very closely knit religious Italian family. So there's even that aspect. I mean, my grandfather was a pastor, a preacher. So I come from a very Christian home. And I was just navigating all these spaces growing up. And now I've become whatever it is that I am.
And you're probably very, like I am, very grateful that you came to the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Because my parents are from Lithuania too.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. No, listen, I mean, Italy is wonderful. It's a wonderful place to spend time there. It's always interesting to me when people say, there are still kids coming from Italy now. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are new immigrants from Italy, and it's a new immigration. It's not my grandfather who didn't have a pair of shoes until he was 18 years old and came because they were starving. Now it's an immigration of the ambitious. It's people that have an advanced degree, they want to make more money, they want to do things, and they feel that where they're from, they're a little bit more constrained, which is sadly still true. But it's funny when you see, when I speak to a non-immigrant, although everyone is an immigrant at some point, I guess with the exception of the Native Americans and African Americans, everyone else at some point came to this country willingly from somewhere else. But nevertheless, those who aren't directly tied to immigrants because they didn't grow up with an immigrant family, maybe they're 5th, 6th, 7th generation Americans, they always say, oh, I love Italy. How could you have possibly come here? It doesn't make any sense. And I always say what my grandfather used to say, who I never met, but I have stories. He died the year I was born. But he would say to people, you can't eat monuments. You know, people don't understand what was happening in these countries only a generation ago. I mean, it was not that long ago. These people are still alive. These people were starving. They were not going to Positano and Portofino. It was a whole other Italy. So I'm very grateful to be here. Obviously, I still love to go to Italy. I go every single year. I don't think I've ever missed a calendar year without going to Italy.
Really?
And I try to still go now more than ever. I try to go for more time every year, but.
Someone once told me, marry someone you can suffer with, okay? Because love is easy when it's good. When you're sitting on a rooftop bar in the summer or binge watching shows under a blanket. Anyone can love through that, okay? Everyone looks good in the honeymoon phase. Anyone can laugh with you on a vacation, eating overpriced sushi, and post couple selfies with matching captions. That's not the test. The test is, who are they when tragedy actually shows up? Okay, when the stuff you didn't plan for comes, when the paycheck doesn't stretch, when one of you gets sick and it doesn't go away, okay, when you bury a parent and the grief hits in waves so hard you forget how to breathe, okay, when the mortgage is overdue and you're staring at each other wondering whose car are you selling first. Okay, that's where forever actually happens, because anyone can be romantic when you got matching outfits and travel photos, but who's standing with you when you're crying in the ER at 3 a.m.? Okay, who's steady when your world isn't? Who looks at you in your worst moment, the broke, exhausted, ugly cry version of you, and still chooses you? Okay, that's the person you marry, not the one who makes the good days better. Plenty of people can do that. The one who makes the bad days bearable, because life guarantees the suffering. You better pick someone you actually want to sit in the fire with.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere that I want to spend time, but I don't think I would ever make it my residence.
And growing up as a teenager here in the U.S., what was that like for you?
It was a blast. I mean, I loved growing up in Jersey City as a teenager. Growing up in an inner city as a teenager, I don't know what it's like now. I can't imagine that it's as fun with the advent of social media. You know what it is? Now these kids, I assume, I'm not a kid, but I can only imagine, they're so much more keenly aware of where they are in the world. In other words, because of social media, they can see what a mansion looks like. They see how rich people are living. You know what it is, man? We were all poor together and nobody knew. And it was just, we were just having fun, and we were just playing basketball, and we were just hanging out at the court, and we didn't have these huge aspirations. We were all dressed very poorly, and nobody even probably noticed. It was just, you were able to exist without all this pressure of what else is out there, of what you're missing, of what you don't have. I never ever felt at any time in growing up, despite the reality looking back, that I was missing something or other people had it better. Despite the fact that realistically, the inner cities were what they were to the extent what they still are, although they're starting to shrink because, with gentrification, the encroachment is ever growing into the hood, so to speak. But when I was growing up, it was the final moments. It was the final moments when there were when somebody walking around with a briefcase in my neighborhood in Jersey City was unthinkable. It was the final moments of no one knew what Starbucks was, you know. And to an extent, I think it was also the final moments of regional identities. Like I have a friend of mine who says like now, you know, all these kids growing up in America, they just have the Starbucks accent. And I think accents are dying out in a way.
Sure.
Because everybody it's so globalized, so
we're all becoming homogenized.
Everything is homogenous. Everybody's watching the same videos and talking this and you know, speaking the same language. So yeah, no, it was a great time. I loved being a kid in Jersey City in the late 90s, early 2000s.
So your name is Davide. Was
so
there a temptation?
Davide.
What is it?
Actually, it's pronounced Davide.
Davide. Was there any pressure to change it to David in the U.S.?
No, never. It was just like the pronunciation was very American. So like, you know, it would be like Davide. So it'd be like Monday, Davide. And that's how the kids growing up would say it. But
and you had one significant relationship or more than one?
I would say that I would count 2 relationships as significant. Perhaps there are others that would object to that. But realistically, we were younger or we didn't, you know, really live together. And I mean that not just in the same home. I mean, you know, when you're just going on a date once every week or 2, yeah, sure, that's a relationship potentially, but it's not the same as when you're doing life together, you know? And I had 2, serious girlfriends. One was in Italy, in large part. We lived in Italy on and off. I would go a lot for a period of about 2 years. She was in Milano, still is. And now she has 2 kids with a man, and they're together, and that's wonderful. It worked out really well for her. It works out for everyone that I date. Everyone that I date, even going back to 15 years ago, it's remarkable. So it's not like, oh, it's easy to say now because you're older. Of course, it's more likely. No. Everyone that I've always dated, even in my 20s, the next person they dated, they either married or had children with.
Interesting.
So like I am setting you up. You date me, you're the next person, you're good to go. So the person she met after me, the girl from Italy, she married, or at the very least they live together and have 2 kids. And then my most recent ex was also someone that I would consider a significant, serious relationship. The one that put me on TikTok. Mm-hmm. She was my second serious relationship of my life, yeah. And who knows, maybe there'll be a third. Presumably I'm young enough for a third.
Is marriage and kids part of your...
Yeah, I don't plan for it. In other words, I'm not obsessively seeking it out, but I certainly would like it. I think conceptually I would like it. I'm sure that it comes with tremendous difficulties and responsibilities, and you know, also I'm 38 and I've lived my life a certain way for so long. It certainly gets harder and harder to be with someone. Again, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to have established routines, preferences. Merging 2 lives together is always complicated, but again, theoretically, I would love to have a life partner, probably have kids. I think I'll probably end up doing whatever it is that my partner wants. I know some men out there that are like, oh, I want to be a dad so badly, and that's beautiful. I think for the most part, again, generally speaking, I'm generalizing as usual. I think for the most part, men don't have such a strong urge inherently as women do, and they more so just adapt to whoever they marry. So if they marry a woman that wants a gazillion kids, they have a gazillion kids. If they marry a woman that doesn't want as many kids, they usually they follow suit. I don't know of that many men in my life, in my world, in my friend groups that, you know, pressure their wife or their partner. I want 3 kids. We got to have 3 kids. I've never seen it. So I think for the most part, you marry someone or you live with someone or you construct a life with someone. And men tend to just adapt to whatever it is that she wants, particularly when it comes to family size. I mean, at the end of the day, it's her body. She's the one that's got to do this thing that looks incredibly taxing. So yeah, I don't have any preferences, but again, conceptually, I think it would be nice to have a child, to raise a child. But I would like for it to be a daughter. That's the only thing. I do have a preference. I would love to have a daughter. I think I always wanted a sister and I didn't have one. I think having a girl in the house just brings like an added sense of grace to the family unit.
I have 2 daughters and I can agree. Daughters are great.
Yeah, I don't know if you have sons, but
nope.
Yeah, I didn't have a sister, and I think I sorely missed that. I think I would have enjoyed having someone there, with a feminine spirit to help out. My mother would have certainly been happy. My poor mother. I think she had very little help from us.
Boys and stuff.
We did our best, but she did a lot of work. She's still doing a lot of work. But.
Do you have regrets in your life?
There are times that I've regretted things. I've regretted ending relationships. I've regretted maybe not following my heart, so to speak, when it comes to career. But they've never lasted. So like those regrets have not proven to be true over time, if that makes sense. So I've had a moment of regret, but years later, I'm okay with what happened. So I don't have any long-standing regrets that are tormenting my life. I think things pretty much play out as they must. I know that's cliche, but I think things are to some extent out of our control. And I don't regret where I'm at. If anything, what's interesting? I recently saw my ex from Italy after I hadn't seen her in 4 years. And by the way, my voice is not cracking because I'm emotional and crying about her. I don't want to be misconstrued. It's cracking because I got this cough that's killing me. But maybe that was a little bit of a defense mechanism. But I saw her for 30 minutes. We just met up real quick. She's got 2 kids. Everything is fine. We haven't been together in years. It's well past anything romantic. And it was wonderful to feel no regrets together. We were united in that. We were both happy that she has the kid. She wanted to live in Italy and I didn't. And she wanted to have a family right away and I didn't. And so she got what she wanted. Part of it anyway. You can't always get everything you wanted. And we had to leave the person we wanted at the time to get the other things that we wanted. It's kind of like one of my favorite movies, in fact, is La La Land because of that paradox of getting everything you want at the expense of everything you want. That's life, I guess. Mm-hmm. But we were both happy for each other. And she mentioned, this thing that's happening for you is so cool. I watch your videos. It's so much fun. I'm so glad the book is out. I knew you always wanted to write, and I can't believe you really did it. I'm so proud of you. And we both came to the realization, in part unspoken, but also in part spoken, that none of this would have happened if we didn't leave each other.
That's right.
And so at the time, it was terrible, and it seemed like the world was coming down on us. And I thought, oh my God, what did I do? Why am I losing this girl over such nonsense? Because at the time I was younger, I wanted freedom. There were things that I thought I wanted to do. I wasn't ready to get married. I didn't want to have to move to Italy. All these logistical and pragmatic and practical factors. But ultimately, if I didn't do that, I'd be in Italy, I don't know, doing God knows what. Probably semi-miserable, semi-bitter that I gave up so much for someone. Or if vice versa, if she had stayed here and we didn't have kids and she would be doing whatever she was doing here rather than doing what she's doing in Italy, which suits her and which was her, that's the life that she wants. We wouldn't be here. I would literally not be here doing this interview. No one would know that I exist. No one would care what I have to say in my car. I'd probably have a Fiat Panda instead of, so I wouldn't even be doing, I wouldn't have space to do the videos. So yeah, it's hard to regret when you realize all of the other things in life that would not have happened but for the things that you could regret. Like one of my favorite movies, It's a Wonderful Life, right? Like when he has to imagine, or he gets to actually experience what it's like if he had never been born. We have no idea, really, the infinite ways in which our life has gone exactly as it should. And it's so easy to regret. It's so easy to be indecisive or to think you could have done things differently. And it's only because we don't realize how perfect it is this way. And, perfect. It's an imperfect perfection. There's a beauty to the way your life played out that is important to recognize. And that doesn't mean you're not going to be depressed sometimes, or sad, or go through difficult things. Obviously, I mean, life is as it is. But it's so important, I think, to try to find the romance of life. And to find that there's romance in everything, in the most traditional sense of the word, not just man, woman, romantic love. There's something beautiful about being here. Quite frankly, not being here is the scariest thing to me. I think that if we're honest, I think what drives us most in life when it comes to wanting to be with somebody, wanting to have a good career, really it's just we're afraid of oblivion. I mean, we're afraid of not being here. Is really what drives us. I mean, we want to be with somebody because we want somebody to be there to witness that we're alive. I mean, that we want somebody to remember us. We want to have children so that they remember us because we're so afraid of non-existence, I think. Like it reminds me of the line in one of the great Italian-American movies of all time, Moonstruck, where Cher's mother goes around throughout the movie asking people, why do men want more than one woman? And she gets all these unsatisfying answers. And finally, at the end, someone says, because they fear death. I mean, I'm not going to justify infidelity because, men are afraid of having an existential crisis and they fear death. But I think it's so true. But I think it applies to everything in life. I think everything we do is to some extent motivated by our fear of no longer being here. And so I got to do this. I have to succeed. I have to get married. I have to have children. I have to be happy. I have to travel. I have to find myself. I have to self-actualize because we're so afraid of not being here. And so what I would say, to put this all together, is that try to use that fear and transform it into a love for your life. So be aware of how precious this is. And, just try not to be overcome by regret, because you can't see how many things you would have missed out on, how many good things you would have never had you done that other thing differently that you're so regretful over. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it's amazing how the thing that you wanted most in your life, 5 years later you realize, if I had gotten that, my life would have been miserable.
100%.
And vice versa, the same thing, where it's like some terrible thing happens to you and you're like, oh my God, that's the worst thing ever in the moment. 5 years later, you're like, thank God that happened.
Absolutely. Like I'm going to butcher this word, but sometimes I love when there's words. Italian is like this as well. All languages have words that are not completely translatable into other languages. I don't speak French. I don't speak a lick of French, but it's spelled Ennui. I think it's ennui.
Ennui, yep.
And I believe that it translated into that feeling of dissatisfaction you have when you get what you think you wanted. And we've all been there. I mean, this happens a lot in relationships. In fact, that's a really great example of where we experience this often. Man, we want this girl so bad. If we just have this girl, everything is going to be beautiful. Everything's going to be wonderful. I'm never going to be depressed again. I'm never going to be upset again. I'm never going to look at another woman again in my life. And then you get the girl, and it turns out that she too is just a person and she's not going to fix everything for you. One Italian American, again, the guy, there's an old man that I grew up with. I was a young kid, but he would be hanging out in the corner all the time. And this is where you get all your stories from. I'm telling you, these people are inherently entertaining. But he would always say something very crudely that I don't think can be said now publicly. Don't say this on a date to a girl, please. But he would always say, look, at the end of the day, all women have the same parts. Which is to say, listen, that girl is not going to solve all your problems, and the absence of that girl is not going to destroy your life. There's always somebody else. At the end of the day, you think that this girl's the most beautiful girl in the world, and that everything's going to be perfect, but then you get it, and you realize that you're still here. You're still here. You're still living life in this imperfect world. And there's going to be problems, and she's not going to satisfy all your needs, and she's not going to be your everything and anything, which is another problem, by the way. I think in relationships now, one of the main problems is that we're seeking someone to be everything, which wasn't so true back in the day. Like, no. Men used to just hang out with each other all day, and then at most see the wife at dinner. Like, you would socialize with your friends. You would work all day. You weren't texting at work because there were no phones, so you couldn't text your girl from work. You saw each other when you saw each other, and you didn't have to be best friends and lovers and business partners and confidants and therapists. Yeah. People want too much from people now. I think we have to get back to putting less pressure and less importance on our relationships. Like, we've made it like the most important thing in my life is my romantic partner and getting a wife and getting a husband and having children. And I think that it puts too much pressure on yourself and on the other. You're aggrandizing their importance in your life. And really, everybody is replaceable. And so are you, so am I. We are replaceable, which of course is a hurtful realization. I mean, nothing hurts more after a breakup, really, for me. And I know, again, this is also crude to say. It's not so much missing their presence in your life, though you do. It's being rejected. It's them removing you from their life and then getting someone else. And everyone wants to believe that, nobody loved her the way I loved her, and nobody's better for her than I am, and I'm the best man she ever had. That's just, that's our ego. That's us, trying to feel better about ourselves, which is understandable, but everybody's replaceable. We all are. So anytime you connect with somebody for however long that lasts, it is a little miracle. It's a blessing. Just enjoy it while it lasts. Nothing lasts forever anyway. Whether it be because of death or other circumstances, you're going to be separated at some point. I think I'm trying to also, as I get older, enjoy my relationships for whatever they're worth, rather than being so preoccupied with making something endure. And again, even as I say that, I know I'm going to fail. I know that the next time I love somebody, I'm going to want to be with them forever. But I don't know.
So is life.
Do the best we can.
Davide di Pierro.
So it's Davide di Pierro if you use the Italian pronunciation, but in America I would say Davide di Pierro.
Yeah. Tell us what your Instagram and your TikTok is.
So my Instagram is Davi, D-A-V-I 87DP. Or you can also just search my name, Davide di Pierro. I'm sure it's going to come up.
Yep.
Or the TikTok is, I just go by Davi, D-A-V-I, which is what my ex used to call me, because I made it while I was with her. So that's why it stuck.
And your book?
D-A-V-I. And the book is The Letters I Never Sent. And you can find it on my page. There's a link to my store on my Instagram and on my TikTok, The Letters I Never Sent. I think it's beautiful. I hope it's beautiful. And I hope you'll check it out and enjoy it.
I think you're amazing.
Thanks so much.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Ladies, get on the dating apps right now because all the worst men in America are at Burning Man. Okay, think about it. Every guy who says I'm really spiritual but also into crypto is currently stranded in the desert pretending to find himself. This might be the safest and most productive dating week of the year. Like, every man who wears a feather headdress, ironically, is gone right now. Right? Every DJ who's almost been signed since 2014 is out for the week. Right? Every guy whose personality is microdosing and discussing ethical veganism, gone. Okay, the apps are clear right now. It's like open season. This is your window to date men who have jobs, soap, and parents they don't hate. Okay, so because the rest are dehydrated in Nevada right now, trying to barter a half-eaten protein bar for an ATV ride. Okay, so Burning Man is basically a music festival for men who never healed from getting cut from JV soccer. Okay, so which means while they're out there covered in dust, the dating apps are safe for once. Okay, so strike now, download everything, swipe freely, because in 1 week they'll be back. Okay, sunburnt and ready to tell you about their startup idea.
When I was designing the first Soft White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.